Hi, everybody. Angel here. Hope you're doing great. And today I'm super excited to speak with Loren. And we will be talking about Tanglewood in Costa Rica, as well as his vegan journey, his raw vegan journey, water fasting, and lots of other topics. So thank you for joining either live or on the replay. And we will get started momentarily. And if you missed any of my previous conversations on Instagram Live, they're on my IGTV channel. So you can check them out. And let me know what you think. Thanks for joining. We'll get started soon. Thank you. And as we go along, please feel free to put your questions or comments down below for Loren, and he'll be happy to answer. Hi there. Thanks for joining. So we'll get started very soon. Hi there.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thank you so
Good.
much for taking the time.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to say hi to everybody who's joining. Thank you so much for joining. As we go along, please put your questions and comments down below for Loren, and he'll be happy to answer. I do have a bunch of questions already prepared for Loren. Loren, the little shorthand on the bottom of the screen are just my notes to keep me on track, so don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
I'll just keep the train going here.
Got it.
And I just, again, want to say hi to everybody. If you wish, you can let us know where you're tuning in from all around the world in the comment section. And I think we should just get right to it because we have lots to cover.
Sure.
Awesome. So Loren, again, thank you so much for taking the time. Costa Rica is one of my all-time favorite countries.
Mine too.
I can imagine. I discovered when I was reading up on your location that in 2018, I was just under 1 hour away from you in Carrillo. But of course, I didn't know that you all existed. And so I can just super imagine how beautiful it is there. But before we get to that, I would love if you could please share with us your vegan journey, how you started, how you ended up to where you are today, including your raw vegan journey, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'd be glad to. Well, it started. I mean, maybe I'll start by saying I grew up outside of Washington D.C. I was a normal kid. I was healthy. I swam competitively from the time I was 6 until the time I was through college. I played baseball and soccer, not all that well, but competitively. I was a healthy kid. When I graduated from college, within about 6 months, I found myself quite sick and later diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic sinusitis, systemic candida, and 57 allergies.
Oh
And what
my
was
gosh.
interesting, well, at the time, this was early to mid 80s. And at the time, chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, and systemic candida weren't recognized by most MDs. And,
Wow.
and so I was told it was in my head. I should rest more. I was sleeping most of the time. I should just be careful what I ate. That worked really well, unless I ate food. Then I had a problem.
Right.
Any
Right.
food, put me in distress. And after 3 years, I worked for a company that we had a medical plan. So I went to my plan doctor, and I was given antibiotics for the sinus infection. They wanted to give me shots for the allergies. I like sitting down. I wasn't interested in that. And
That's scary.
at the end of the year, I was worse than when I started. And so I thought, I'm going to find another doctor. And I changed doctors, and the same routine, same exact thing, antibiotics for the sinus infection over and over again. And at the end of the year, I felt worse than when I started. So I found another doctor. And at the end of the third year, I thought, okay, 3 out of 3, these guys don't know what they're talking about. It occurred to me, and with all due respect to doctors, I have a doctor here now. I had 2 here last session. We have many clients, not so many who are MDs, more who are naturopaths and other professionals. My brother's a doctor. One of my few cousins is a doctor. I love these people, and they mean well, but they've been brainwashed. They've been educated in a system that only suppresses symptoms and does so with toxic substances, drugs, and of course there's surgery. But that's a whole nother story. I mean, medicine, as it's taught in practice, as you may be aware, it's changed dramatically in the last 110 years. That happened on purpose when John D. Rockefeller, world's first billionaire, began investing in pharmaceuticals and wanted to hedge his bets. So he made it illegal for them to do anything else. They used to teach fasting in medical schools. They used to fast people. Now it's illegal for a doctor in the U.S. to recommend fasting to someone. Insane. So I realized medicine wasn't helping me. I didn't want anything else to do with it. And I've never gone back to medicine, with the exception of trauma. It's now been, I was 26 when I walked away. I'll be 61 in a few months. I haven't seen a doctor now in 35 years, with the exception of for trauma. The interesting thing is it took me 6 months to regain my health to the point, everything's relative.
Yeah.
But I got my health back to the point that people started coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, you look amazing. What did you do?
Yeah.
Help me. Can you help my brother? Can you help my kid?" And that's how I started coaching people. At the time, I was running a small commercial real estate company. That's what I had gotten into out of school. I had a degree in finance, and that's where I wound up. And it was good to me financially, but I hated what I was doing. I was helping wealthy people get wealthier, and some of them weren't very nice people. And I didn't really feel like it was an important thing to do. It was a lucrative thing to do, but I wanted to help people. And so I wound up, after about 5 years, I wound up closing that whole thing and becoming a full-time health coach. And that's what I've done ever since. More than 30 years coaching people. Almost in March, we'll celebrate 25 years running Tanglewood. But
Wow.
to come back to your question, when I walked away from medicine, I thought, what do I do now? I mean, I didn't, if I'd grown up in Southern California, I probably would have had lots of other paths I could have used. I could have gone to homeopaths and naturopaths and etc. I didn't know of those people. I didn't know they existed. And it's probably just as well, because it shortened my learning curve. The next thing I thought was, well, maybe nutrition can help me. Now, I had started studying nutrition at the age of 14. And I'll tell you what happened in that year. It was the end of my 14, almost like 15. In my 14th year of life, I grew 10 inches without gaining a pound.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Now, I've heard of a growth spurt, but I don't know what that is. That's like a growth,
right. That was crazy.
A rocket or something.
That was crazy. Yeah, exactly. And so, I look like a stick with a nose, and hormones are kicking in. I'm wanting the girls to find me attractive, and I look like a stick with a nose. So I started thinking, maybe if I learn about nutrition and eat better and exercise, maybe I can build some muscle.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and it worked. But I knew what I knew. I'd learned quite a bit, but I wasn't paying so much attention to it. Through high school and college, my diet had progressively gotten to be like a typical college kid. Pizza and beer was a big part of it. So I thought to myself, maybe I need to go back to nutrition. And I went back to nutrition and realized I was already doing everything conventional nutrition said I should do. And I started thinking about that, and it didn't make sense to me that nutrition didn't have some of the answers. So what occurred to me was, maybe the problem wasn't nutrition. Maybe the problem was the particular school of nutrition, that I was looking at, this conventional nutrition. And so the result was I started thinking about, okay, maybe what I need to do is figure out what's natural for the human body, for my body. Maybe I need to figure that out. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that occurred to me was, if it's processed, it ain't natural. Right? So I gave up all natural food, all processed foods. That was the end of that. Mm-hmm. And that, with a little bit of research, it became clear to me that our bodies weren't intended for animal products. Right? I mean, we have completely different physiology. Vegetarians still eat dairy products. Every mammal makes lactase, the enzyme that breaks down milk sugar, lactose, mm-hmm. until they're weaned, and then stops making it. Right? There's a reason that most African Americans and most people of Eastern European descent and most Asians and most people on the planet can't consume dairy products without distress. That's because we're not, that's because we're not intended to. We are never supposed to be consuming those things after we're weaned. I mean, breast milk, mother's milk only.
Totally natural, yeah.
Exactly. Animal meat and so forth. No, we have completely different systems. And so I gave up that's when I became a vegan. I gave up all animal products. And I did that for about 5 years. I was at it's funny because I'm focused on what's natural for my body, and I'm a little bit embarrassed, but I grew up outside of Washington D.C. I'd moved back to Washington and gone into business there, and I was at a health conference, and I'm walking down the sidewalk from one building to the other to go listen to a lecture, and as I walk past two people talking, I overhear just 2 words of a conversation, and a light bulb goes off. I hear someone say, "raw food."
All right.
And I thought, oh my God, here I am trying to eat what's natural, and I'm cooking my food. Cooking's obviously not natural. And so I realized at that moment, this was late October, and I made a decision. I'm usually the guy that jumps in with both feet, but my oldest sister, lived a couple hours away, and I'd already told her I'd be at her house for Thanksgiving that year. And I was already going to be not eating a lot of the things, but doing whatever I could. And I decided that I would keep eating cooked food until Thanksgiving. And so the Friday after Thanksgiving, that was the last day I had a regularly scheduled cooked food meal. That was 30 years ago, 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, I think it'll be 3 weeks, whatever that is.
Amazing.
Yeah. Right. Well, it has been challenging. It was challenging at times. And there were times when I thought, I can handle a little bit of cooked food. Mm-hmm. Every single time my body has said, "You're an idiot, you shouldn't." Yeah.
Yeah. But so, I can relate to that. Yeah, I can relate to I just want to say, I can relate to what you're saying, because sometimes I get off my raw track because I'm bored or I'm out and about or I'm traveling, and I want to try like a cooked vegan dish for myself, and also to share with others on social media.
Right.
And invariably I will have like pimples or indigestion or extra mucus, and I'm like, why did you do that? Like, why do you do this?
Yeah, well, maybe we're both members of the not the brightest bulb in the box group. But I don't know about you. Sometimes I learn things the hard way. But it's absolutely clear. It's interesting because over the years, I did it here just last week. We're pretty close to full as we usually are. We've got about 30 people here now, fasting or refeeding, and I polled the group. How many of you spent at least a month eating a clean, raw vegan diet? And 15 hands went up. I said, how many of you felt bad as soon as you ate any cooked food? Every single hand went. Actually, there was one person who said it didn't affect her. I don't know how that's possible. Everybody else, and this is true every session for years, 25 years. We see the same exact thing. People think, oh, but steamed vegetables and brown rice, that's healthy. Well, it's all relative. If your body's clean enough, it's not going to be happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I've kind of done the experiment myself, and it just doesn't go very smoothly.
Not so well. Not really.
Well, I just want to applaud you for first of all, doing all your research and picking up just on those two words. I mean, raw food. Like if I heard raw food, I mean, I would have to hear like raw vegan, honestly. For me, for it to really click for me, I think I
Yeah.
would have to hear it like spelled out completely.
Yeah.
But I just want to applaud you, and especially so many years ago, because there wasn't, I mean, I imagine there wasn't a lot of information out there.
No, there wasn't. I mean, first of all, and I don't know who your viewership tends to be. I'm sure it's a mixed group, but
Yeah.
some of the people here, if you're say 30, 35 maybe or so or younger, you might be surprised to hear that back then there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was no
Right.
Facebook, there was no Google. You know what? It
Right.
wasn't so easy to find some of this information. That's true. I mean, back then, I think because of how I was focused on optimizing my diet, you know, finding what was natural. I think just the word raw. If I had heard the word raw in any the right context, I would have said, "Oh, and I'm still cooking. Like, what's up with
Yeah.
that?"
Yeah.
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 So no, that was it though. I mean, I wish I knew who that stranger was so I could thank. But
It's awesome. No, I love it because I also like to kind of, I wouldn't say it's eavesdropping, but I guess I do kind of pay attention to what's going on around me. And,
uh-huh.
sometimes I hear a super interesting comment or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome that you picked up on that, and it just, set your life off on a totally awesome trajectory. I do want to say hi to everybody who's joining. Thank you for joining. Please put your questions and comments down below for Loren, and he'll be happy to answer. And while we wait for questions and comments, oh, well, we actually already have a question. So I think I'm just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind answering this question, which
Okay.
is, what's the difference between a B12 deficiency and low iron?
Okay. Well, they're two completely different things. So iron is iron. The iron, all minerals show up in different forms. Our bodies need minerals in organic form, which means as part of plant tissue. So, but iron, iron's the stuff they make ships out of and trains and so forth. Iron is that mineral. Our bodies need it in a form that we get from places like leafy greens and oranges and so forth. It's a mineral. Vitamin B12, whether it's technically a vitamin or not is I'm not sure about, but the B vitamins are produced by bacteria, and including the microbiome, what's been called the second brain. In the gut, we have 3 pounds of bacteria, which is the same size, the same weight as the brain itself, and that's about 10 trillion bacteria in the gut. And those bacteria are producing the B vitamins every single day. And so the truth is the difference between low B12 and low iron, they're completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But they can be related, because if you are low in iron, you might be low in B12. But they're really different things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it comes down to basically having, a wide variety of plant foods so that you are getting all your nutrients, versus like, some kind of skimpy, I don't know, reduced version of a plant diet. Is what I would kind of just wrap that all up with. Because if you're missing one or the other, then evidently you're just not, for example, the iron, you're just not getting it from the right sources. And you have a really good piece on on the B vitamins and B12. I was listening to one of your videos. So I invite anyone who hasn't caught up with Loren's videos to check them out, because he has some really, really good content. I learned a lot. So I just want to thank you for that. And we do have some more we do have some more questions coming in. So another question here is, highly acidic, chronic eczema or burns, will water fasting bring it out via the skin more? So will water fasting bring out chronic eczema or burns?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not sure the choice of the words "bring it out." I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I mean, let me answer a slightly different question, and let me explain a little bit about fasting. I'm not sure how many people here will already know much about fasting. I know it seems awfully radical to many people, and it seemed radical to me too. And if you like, we can explore that a little bit more. Maybe
Yeah.
after this question, we can just
Yeah.
talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me say this about it. Healing and cleansing are biological processes. And what that means, and you want to be really clear about this, because what that means is that only the organism can heal the organism. There's nothing I can take, there's nothing I can drink, there's nothing, that anyone can do to me that's going to heal me or cleanse me. Okay? My body is self-cleansing and self-healing, as is yours. Fasting is simply the best way to get out of the body's way so that it has the optimal conditions and opportunity to cleanse and heal as effectively and as efficiently as possible. So the question I'll answer is, can fasting heal burns and eczema? And the answer is yes. Anything that can heal will heal more efficiently, more effectively via fasting. Remember, it's, fasting's not healing it, the body's healing it. But processing food takes more energy than anything we normally do. And if this sounds crazy, let me just share a couple of things with you. First of all, virtually every species, there's about 25 million animal species. Virtually every one of them, when sick enough or badly enough injured, will lay down and stop eating. Okay, fasting is nature's way of allowing the organism to cleanse and heal. So if your dog or cat gets sick enough, it will refuse food. You can put the food right in front of its face. It won't touch it. Instinctively, it knows. Not if it wants to heal. And people think, oh, but you got to eat for strength to heal. No, you really don't. I mean, we have what we need in the body already to heal. We want to rest as completely as possible. And that means that we're fasting, because if we're eating, we're not resting. We're working the body pretty hard. Okay? So now, can fasting heal everything? Well, no. I mean, there are some things that are beyond healing. If something can heal, fasting will be the most efficient, assuming it's done both properly and long enough. Fasting will allow it to heal. But things that aren't going to heal aren't going to heal.
Yeah, well, thank you for answering that. And thank you for the question from one of our guests. So, Loren, that takes us to the topic of Tanglewood and your center. Can you tell us a bit, please, a little more about your center, and what is this whole idea of water fasting? Why, why did you get into this? Why do we need to be doing this? If we're afraid, we need food to live every single day, then how are you gonna, I guess, explain this to us that, it's okay to, experience a period of time water fasting. What is this all about, please?
Sure. Well, I mean, as I said a minute ago, the body's self-healing, and fasting simply allows us to get out of the body's way. Every other species does it. This was something, remember, as I said a few minutes ago, medical schools used to teach fasting. It's funny because I was talking about this last session. And one of the MDs that was here came up to me after my lecture that day. I give a 1-hour lecture every day. And he said, I have a book in my possession, which is about the history of medicine. And he said, you're absolutely right. They talk about the fact that they used to teach fasting in medical schools. Now, Hippocrates, famous for 2 quotes, right? You probably know both of them.
But one is more famous than the other. And I'm really glad you bring up the second one. So go for it.
Okay. Well, the first one, medicine adopted the first one, which says first do no harm, and then oops, medicine kills more people than anything besides cancer and heart disease. And some people say more than cancer and heart disease as well. And I understand their point. But the second one is one that every alternative practitioner, and probably a lot of your followers already know. And Hippocrates said, let your food be your medicine, and your medicine your food. Now, a lot of people interpret that to mean, oh, we should be eating herbs, things like that, because they heal us, right? Well, no. That was only part of what Hippocrates said. The whole statement was, let your food be your medicine and your medicine your food. But to feed yourself when you're already sick is to feed your sickness.
See, that
Hippocrates,
part is not very
not so
often.
well, not so well
Yeah.
known. Yeah. Hippocrates fasted his patients. Okay, the first, considered the first Western doctor. I'm sure there probably were doctors in Africa long before that, maybe in Asia too. But the first Western, like European doctor, this was what he said. This is what he did, and this is what people used to do everywhere. I mean, if you wanted to study with the Greek mathematicians, you needed to fast for 40 days first because
Oh my gosh.
they didn't want to waste their time on people who weren't thinking as clearly as possible. When you get the garbage out of your body, your brain works better. Everything works better. So it sounds radical. And here I was, I've changed my diet. I'm still searching for the answer. And I came across a book that was written in 1929, I think, called Rational Fasting by a man called Arnold Ehret from Germany.
Oh, yeah.
And I read this book, and it sounds a little crazy. I mean, he's talking about people going weeks without food. I'm Jewish, but only on my parents' side. It's a little joke, both parents. I grew up fasting one day every year. I knew I could survive one day. I didn't know if I could survive 2 days. I mean, when I decided, and back then, again, there were fasting centers back then. There were more of them than there are now. But I didn't know that because they weren't so easy to find, right? Back then we had a search engine. It wasn't Google. It was called the Yellow Pages. And if you went to the Yellow Pages and looked under fasting, you know what it said? Nothing at all.
I was going to say, I don't know.
Nothing. Right. So I was on my own. I had this book. Here's this guy talking about going weeks. I thought, I'm not going to kill myself first time out. So I fasted 2 days. And I parked myself close to the refrigerator just to be safe. And I survived 2 days. And then I tried 4. And then I tried 8. And I worked my way up until I was fasting weeks at a time. And amazing things began to happen for me. And by then, I realized that there were other places you could go. And in fact, I started learning about these places and the people behind it. I got to know some of them quite well. 2 of my mentors ran fasting centers for years. Both have since passed away. And I didn't really like the way that most of these places were set up and run. I mean, today our largest competitors in California, and it's a very medical feeling facility. And it's located on a busy intersection where you can hear traffic noise all the time, and there's no nature. It's like, hang on. Science is clear. There's studies that show that if someone's in a hospital bed and they can see a tree through the window, just see a tree through the window, they heal 20% faster. And I thought, I'm going to create something in nature where we're surrounded by the energy of nature. It's about as unmedical as you can get. And some, that keeps some people away. And I understand that's fine. They're not for us. The people that come to us are people that really don't want, a medical type of experience. And so, I created Tanglewood because I realized that fasting was so incredibly powerful. It had been so amazing for me. I wanted to share it with people. And I realized, I could have gone out there and promoted the places that existed, but I didn't really like most of the places that existed. And so I decided to create something better.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll dig a little bit deeper into that, and probably as we go along here.
Sure.
We have the questions are coming in fast and furious here.
Okay.
So here we go. Here's the next question. Is black seed oil and sea moss bad for you?
Is flaxseed oil...
Actually, black seed.
Black seed oil.
Black seed oil.
I don't know what that is. But I'll tell you this. There's no such thing as a healthy oil. Okay? My perspective is very simple, right? We're never going to improve on nature. So when we extract oil from anything, where there's a lot of oxidation that happens, we wind up with a substance that now fragmented from the seed, separated from the seed, or wherever it's coming from, mostly seeds. It's now going to become rancid very easily, which means, rotten. Because oil is as it is, it's slimy, it coats the small intestine, which is where we're intended to absorb most of our nutrients, making it difficult to do that. And so I don't think there's any such thing as a healthy oil. There's no oils that I recommend or use. We have a little bit of olive oil here. We use it for the door hinges. Seriously. That's it. That's all we use it for.
I love that.
Yeah, sea moss. I'm sorry. Let me just respond to that second part.
Sure.
Sea moss is okay, but and again, I don't really know like exactly what sea moss is. I mean, I've eaten some, but assuming it's sort of in the family of seaweeds, here's the thing, and this may sound crazy until you think about it. When a cow, not in a factory farm in the U.S. I mean, here I live in a place where a lot of people raise dairy cattle, but they've got big stretches of grass, right? Yeah. The cows wake up on the grass, and they wake up and they think, "Holy crap! I died and went to heaven. I'm surrounded by grass." That would be like me waking up in a mango orchard or a durian orchard, right? Because, every species is naturally attracted to what it's supposed to eat, what it's intended to eat. Okay, so now imagine you're walking down the beach. By the way, I was on the beach yesterday in Samara. I usually go to Carrillo once a week on Wednesdays.
Oh, I love Samara.
I was in Samara yesterday afternoon. Yeah. Okay, so if you're walking down the beach in Carrillo or Samara or wherever it is, and there's a pile of seaweed on the sand, does your mouth start watering? You think, "Oh, that looks delicious," or do you think, "I'm going to try not to step in that"?
That's my thing, because I don't want to get tangled in it.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, that doesn't. When you see mangoes, you don't think, "Oh, that's disgusting." You think that looks amazing, right? We're naturally attracted to what we're intended to eat. We're not intended to eat seaweeds. You can. One of the things you want to be clear about, though, we talked about B12 earlier. Seaweeds contain, and algae contain B12 analogs, not B12, but analogs. And think of it this way. B12 is like a key. We have receptor sites in the body that are like locks. The key goes into the lock, right? An analog is like a key that fits into the lock, but it won't actually work the lock. Okay? So imagine you're in a hotel. Now these days hotels pretty much all have cards, but in the old days they had keys. Mm-hmm. So let's say you come up to your room and you try to stick your key in the lock, but you can't, because the guy in the room next door, he was drunk and he went to your room instead, and he tried to open the door, but his key broke off. And now there's a piece of the key in the lock. Your key won't go in. If we're eating a lot of things that contain B12 analogs, the analogs occupy the receptor sites, and the body can't absorb B12. Oof. Okay, so for me, I think it's okay to eat seaweeds every once in a while, but I don't think they should be a significant part of our diet.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is a very interesting question.
Okay.
Why do I have nightmares usually after going to bed on a full stomach?
Right. I'd love to know from the person asking the question, when this happens, if they've noticed what it is that they're eating. If it tends to be, because I believe, first of all, do you have children?
No.
Okay. Anybody with children knows that if a kid eats a bunch of sugar before they go to sleep, they're very likely to have nightmares. Yeah. Okay? And so nightmares happen significantly because we're detoxifying. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it's interesting. People that in fact, I'll use myself as an example. Okay? 30 years raw, I fasted dozens of times over the years. Not only do I not have nightmares, this may seem strange, I don't have dreams anymore. I never remember any dreams unless I eat gourmet raw food. And when I travel, I still do. I like, I like to support these places. And to be honest, it's fun to go to a restaurant. It's nice to be served. Yeah. I enjoy the food. And, we're building an amazing project here where there will be raw vegan restaurants. So I'm also looking for ideas and so forth. If I eat gourmet raw food, if I eat a lot of nuts or seeds, which I don't normally eat, even a lot of avocados, I'll have dreams. But the same thing happens when people fast. They'll have nightmares where they usually don't. Okay? It's because they're detoxifying. So when you go to bed on a full stomach, you've eaten too much, your body's probably not digesting very well. And food that's not properly digested creates problems in the system. Now you're absorbing toxins into your bloodstream. That's probably why you're having nightmares.
But also what you're describing, because I also indulge in what we call, raw gourmet. And,
Right.
they're very low water, low hydration food.
Right.
So they're very dense, in other words,
Yes.
and or even nuts and seeds, they're very
Right.
dense.
Right.
Yeah, I can see your point on that. Like they're not the optimal, shall we say,
No,
hydration levels either.
no, clearly not. Yeah. As
Yeah.
you may be aware, I mean, I'm really, really focused on hydration levels
Hmm,
and
hmm.
encourage people to focus their diet on high water content
Yeah.
fruits and
Yeah.
simple green salads. Simple, I mean, lettuce is 96% water, cucumbers are 96% water, tomatoes are 93% water. Even if you have a little bit of avocado, which is about 80% water, you've got a pretty high water content meal.
Hmm.
Um, Fruits, I mean, we have more bananas we could possibly eat, and I don't eat bananas very often.
Right.
I focus on watermelons and papayas and pineapples and
Yeah.
things that are much higher in water content most of the time. It's not that I never eat those other things. I do. I love some
Exactly.
of them. We
Hmm.
have soon, this next weekend, we'll have a bunch of jackfruits and champadacs. Not high in water, but amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand that answer. So I hope that was helpful to our guests. Here's another question. How to combat hair loss on a low-fat vegan diet, high raw?
Well, unfortunately, for most of the time, hair loss isn't really combatable. I mean, the best thing that I found to combat hair loss. There we go. What do you mean? I got plenty of hair. You just can't see it.
I love that.
It's most hair loss is genetically inherited,
Mhm.
and you want to be clear. I mean, I've had people say to me, "Oh no, epigenetics says we can control our DNA." Well, we can control the expression of certain things like disease. So, for instance, if a woman's mother, grandmother, great grandmother all develop breast cancer, that doesn't mean she's going to. She actually has to create the damage to her DNA to create that. And so there's a place where there might be a propensity towards that particular condition, but you're not going to inherit it. You have to create that yourself, and you can control whether those genes get turned on or not. There are genes we have no control over. Okay, my people came from Eastern Europe. My skin is actually pretty fair. I have a lot of sun, but it's usually pretty fair. My eyes are green. My hair was dark brown, black. Those were things that I couldn't meditate real hard and wake up with color eyes. That's not going to happen. Unfortunately, if you've inherited the gene for male pattern baldness, as I have, you're probably going to lose your hair eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this is a woman, and there's a couple of different ways that this can show up, that hair loss can show up. Some of them, it's limited, are about poor nutrition. So if someone has very poor nutrition, they can lose hair for that reason. And if that's the case, honestly, the best thing you could do would be to fast long enough and properly, and then eat the optimal diet that I recommend, because you're going to maximize your nutrition, guaranteed. I mean, I'll literally guarantee in writing that you'll be healthier than you've been for years, for some people ever.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was speaking with a woman who just started her plant-based journey, and she was having like loads of hair loss, and just within like under a week, she started to see a huge reduction in her
Yeah.
hair loss.
Yeah.
She had a lot of inflammation on the standard
Right.
diet, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And she saw like a huge improvement. She's just so happy, and I'm just so happy for her as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I
So
mean, again, I'm coming up on 61, but I've got a young man here now. He actually left for a course today. He'll be back in a couple weeks, but he fasted with me back in December last year for 42 days. And he's traveled a little bit, but he's basically been living here ever since and eating optimally, at least when he's here. And when he got here, he had very little hair on top of his head. And again, now he wasn't even 30 at the time. Now, most of that is coming back in. And that's
Exactly.
a result of cleaning out his body and improving the nutrition dramatically. His situation was different than mine. That's not likely to happen for me.
Okay, understood. So here's another good question. And again, thank you all so much. We have tons of questions coming in. If you wish, please keep them coming, everyone. So here's another one. Any remedies for dry skin while waiting for the skin to rehydrate as I eat optimally?
No, unfortunately, I mean, here's the thing. There are many topical solutions. You could put creams and oils and so forth. And I'm sure there are things that are much better, and much worse than others. But the truth is, healthy skin really starts from the inside. And so anything you put on your skin from the outside, I don't really believe it's doing much to help you. Now, it might look better and feel better, and you might or might not be willing to have a temporary solution like that. The problem is that some of those things, especially the lower quality products, are actually going to negatively impact your health and your skin. And so, I mean, again, this is something we really haven't gotten into much. But one of the things that's occurred to me as a result of this practice, I've now worked with thousands, more than 15,000 clients over all these years from all over the world. We currently have people here from probably 15 or more countries, one of the housekeepers. And one of the things we've seen, we've been, let's see, so I think 15 and a half years ago, we started measuring clients' hydration levels. And what we have seen is that nearly everybody is severely dehydrated.
Yeah.
Practically everyone.
Yeah.
That happens as a result of primarily of eating conventionally. Other things too. But imagine, I mean, for instance, you've probably had corn chips at some point in your life.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Not so much water in a corn chip.
No.
They're about
That's
3%.
why they're crunchy. That's why they're crunchy.
Yeah, they're about 3% water. They're about 90% oil, but they're about 3% water. Yeah. When they come back out of your body, are they as dry as when they went in?
No.
You better hope not.
I was going to say no.
That would be pretty uncomfortable if they were, right?
Totally,
They go in almost completely dry, and they come out, well, stool on average is 75% water. So anything that you consume that has less water than that is taking water from your body. Even, I mentioned bananas earlier. Bananas are about 73% water. Okay, so it's not unusual. I mean, most of my meals are mono fruit meals for 30 years. If I eat a meal of bananas, I might feel a little bit thirsty. Okay,
Yeah.
that never happens after eating watermelon or papaya or anything else.
No way. Yeah.
Right, but bananas are actually taking a little bit of water from the body. So I mean, I grew up like
Good
most people,
point.
eating almost exclusively meals that were taking water from me, and I was never putting it back in. Right, and and we can't just drink enough water to make up for it, because the water in our perfect foods is much more easily used by the body. It's actually a different structure. It's how the water is clustered, because water, H2O is a water molecule, but you can't show me a water molecule. You've got to have at least 5 of them clustered together to see water.
Wow.
Okay, and what we want is water that's got 5 or 6 molecules clustered together. That's what happens in your fruits and vegetables. But if this is spring water right out of the ground. It's perfect. We have it tested regularly, and still, body's not going to use this the same way that it's going to use the water in our foods.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the expression that some people use, like "eat your water," and I just love that. I think that's so powerful and so true.
It is powerful, but I'll share something with you that might surprise you. When we, again, we usually have enough people here each session. Our sessions are 10 weeks long. So over the course of the session, there'll be 50 to 60 people here. We'll usually have about 30 people at a time. We have 5 people here right now who fasted between 38 and 42 days. They're all done now. We're getting toward the end of the session, so those people are all done and we'll be refeeding. We have, most of our clients fast 26, 30 days, 21 days, like that. Very few people do less than 21 days with it. And it's because we see the most amazing things happen with 21 days or more. The reason for that is because it takes 10 to 11 days just to get to the deepest part of the process. So, if you do, and here we back into the fasting time. We book by the week. So if you're here for 3 weeks, you can fast 16 days. If you do that, you've got 5 or 6 days in the deepest part of the process. If you spend 1 more week with us, you've got twice as much time in the deepest part of the process. You can fast 21 days. So to me, it makes a lot more sense. And most of our guests see it the same way. But when we look at a group of people and we look to see where their hydration is, we'll see the average person coming in is going to be between 84 and 85% hydrated overall. Okay, which means 15 to 16% dehydrated. People who eat really, really poorly are going to be worse. And typically, the older somebody is, the more dehydrated they are, because most people are losing hydration every single day by eating the way they eat. And so the older someone is, the lower their hydration level is going to be. Last session, it was interesting. We saw this starkly. We had 5 people here over the age of 60 at one time. We had one guy who was 60, 62, who was here with his 14-year-old son. Wow. And the son, the 14-year-old, was the most hydrated person here. His father was among the worst hydrated people here. His father had been eating close to optimally since he heard me speak at a full weekend seminar in Jerusalem 5 years ago. The son ate normally. And even though, he ate mostly processed crap, but he'd only had 14 years to ruin his hydration. So, usually the age is a factor, but it's taking all that aside, if we were to look at a group of, 25-year-olds, for instance, here's what we see. The people who've been practicing dry fasting are the most dehydrated people who show up here.
That's so extreme. Yeah.
It's really harmful to someone. And we can, if you want, we can come back. I'll just say this. Animals in nature do typically fast without drinking water, but they've also spent their entire life eating the diet that they're supposed to be eating. So they're fully hydrated. Yeah. They don't drink alcohol. They don't drink sodas. They don't drink coffee and tea, all of which are diuretics and make you lose water. They don't eat dried food. Right? They eat most animals eat high water content food, even carnivores. A carnivore, this is a little bit disgusting, but a carnivore typically bites through the jugular vein of its prey, the artery that feeds the brain, drinks all the blood, and then tears it open, eats the water-rich internal organs before eating the meat. And and not cooking the water out of the meat. People eat meat, cook most of the water out of it, and then eat that. Put it between two dry pieces of bread. Of course they're getting dehydrated. Yeah. So the next most dehydrated group of people we see, and this is going to be surprising, are the fruitarians who have somehow decided that because they're eating high water content foods, they don't need to drink water.
I've heard of that. I've heard that.
So, it's yes, we're going to get the best water from our foods, but until your body's truly clean and hydrated, you still, and even now, I speak hours every day. I've got today, as is typical, I had about 5 hours. I still have one more call this evening with people in Asia fasting with me remotely. I do about 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours of calls every day. I give a lecture here every day. I spend 2 hours talking to my clients every day. I'm talking a lot, so I'm sipping water throughout the day. I don't drink much, but I sip throughout the day to keep my, wet my whistle. It's been a while, but if I'm on a break and not doing all these calls, I don't need much water. When I fast, I don't need much water. The average person needs to drink quite a bit because they're so dehydrated. So, once we get the body clean, again, this is crazy for most people, but the average person we see eliminates between 10 and 20 pounds of mucoid plaque, old hard material. Or maybe it's more fair to say, between 5 and 15 pounds. But it's quite a bit of stuff. And that old material is sitting in the digestive tract like a giant sponge absorbing water. It's virtually impossible to get hydrated until we get rid of that.
Yeah,
We get
agreed,
really,
agree.
yeah,
It's scary. Oh my gosh. I want to say hi to everybody who's joining. Thank you for joining. Please put your questions and comments down below for Loren, and he'll be happy to answer. So let's continue here on the train to the next question. We
sure,
have so many questions to get through.
no
Um,
problem.
so here is another one. How to get rid of acne for good eating, low fat, high raw vegan diet. So the person is eating a low fat, high raw vegan diet and they're still having acne and they want to know how to get rid of the acne.
Okay, all right. So this sort of comes back to something we talked about at the beginning of the call. And if you remember, I said that healing is a biological process. So no diet heals the body, no juices don't heal the body, nothing heals the body except for the body. Now, many people adopt, a close to optimal diet, this high, low fat, high raw. I'm not sure exactly, but if it's mostly raw and
Yeah.
it's okay, that's a pretty good diet, right? Maybe it could be optimized, maybe it's not perfect, but it could be pretty good. A lot of people adopt a diet like that will see significant improvement in their health. They'll see themselves healing many things. And that's not because the diet healed them. Diets can't heal you, the body's self-healing. That's because when we optimize our diet, we're creating less of an impediment to healing every time we eat. So the average person who sits down and think about the average person in the US and, is having fast food. I mean, the average North American now gets 61% of their calories from ultra processed foods. They get 35% from animal products. 96% of their calories are coming from things nobody should be consuming, not ever. Okay. And so the average person, every time they have a meal, they're making it harder for their body to cleanse and heal itself. They're creating an additional burden on the body. Okay. When you optimize, because in every moment of our lives, our amazing bodies are doing everything they can to cleanse and heal. As soon as we optimize anything, as soon as we improve, if we get a little bit more sleep, if we get, we do a little bit more exercise, we drink a little bit more water, we eat a slightly better diet. If we optimize anything, if we improve anything, we're going to improve our health. So many people do heal. Now, what I heard inherent in the question is, hey, I'm eating this diet that heals everyone. How come it hasn't healed my acne? It doesn't heal anyone. Some bodies are able to heal by optimizing the diet. Some bodies aren't. Way more powerful than optimizing the diet is fasting. Okay? So we've had many people here. We had one person who was 22 years eating only fruit and salad. We had another one, I think it was 17 or 18 years. And I would speak to her. I would, talk to her frequently or regularly, occasionally throughout the year, whatever, and over years. And I would say to her, when are you going to come fast? And she would say, why would I need to fast? I've been following the diet you recommend for 17 or 18 years, every year. I finally convinced her. I said was, yeah, that's not enough. So she finally came and fasted. It was life-changing for her. It's unbelievable what happens when we give the body this incredible opportunity to cleanse and heal. So unfortunately, if your body is not healing, and for many people, many of the people I see here, not most, but many people I see here are already eating optimally before they come here and still not getting the results they want. Fasting changes that for virtually everyone if it's done properly.
Yeah, and thinking about this question, we don't know how long the person has been, this good
That's true.
eating, low
That's true.
fat,
Yeah.
did they start yesterday? Did they start
Right.
a week
I've
ago?
been doing this for 2 hours. Why isn't it so good?
I mean, I'm probably exaggerating there about yesterday, but my point is like we don't really even know enough. And then, it's known, it's a common fact that our skin is our largest organ. So
Right.
could some of this be what we call detox? I mean,
No,
I don't know. Do
absolutely.
you believe in detox? I mean, what's that all about?
No, acne is absolutely about detox. I mean, there are 5 primary channels of elimination from the body. One is the colon. The second was the urinary tract, and those are critically important ones. The liver breaks down toxins, and any solid waste that's toxic is eliminated through the colon. The kidneys, two kidneys, are filtering your blood roughly 60 times per day. And so most of the toxins that wind up in the bloodstream, and this, you know, no matter where the stuff, how the stuff is getting into the body, it's going to wind up in the bloodstream, right? Your lymphatic system picks up all the garbage from the cells and then dumps it into the thoracic duct, the major vein leading back to the heart, right into your bloodstream, where it's pumped to the kidneys to be filtered out through the kidneys. Yeah. Okay? So the kidneys, you know, huge one. And by the way, this should be enough to make it clear why you don't want to drink your pee.
I know. I see people doing it. I actually discussed this with my coach, and you know, neither of us were in agreement with that. Let's put it that way. But you know, I'm not trying to, you know, say anything for people who do it. But yeah,
urine's been shown to contain up to 300 different chemicals, toxic chemicals, including pharmaceutical drugs, household cleaning products, pesticides, herbicides. Everything winds up in the bloodstream, is filtered out through the kidneys, and winds up in the urine. You don't want to drink that stuff. In any case, after the colon and the urinary tract, we eliminate toxins through mucous membranes: eyes, nose, ears, mouth, vagina, anus. These are all ways to expel toxins from the body. We eliminate through our breath, and finally through the skin.
Yeah.
So this is detox for sure. And the key is to support the body in being able to detox as efficiently and as effectively as possible. You know, I don't believe there's a better way to do that than a properly conducted, long enough water fast.
Yeah. So we have a compliment coupled with a question.
Okay.
Thanks to you, Loren. I'm on day 11 of 13 days water fasting. I'm very tired of drinking water. What to do?
Okay. Well, you know, the only safe thing to do is to break your fast. And to be honest, there's a reason that the so-called fasting experts, and this isn't just people who run fasting centers, it's people who taught fasting and taught, you know, back in the old days of teaching medicine, it was always said, you don't fast more than 3 to 5 days without experienced guidance, because you really have to understand what's going on. I mean, you might be tired of drinking water and not even drinking enough. I don't know. I'd have to actually look at your daily vital signs to see whether you're getting what you need or not. Not getting what you need is dangerous. Getting too much is also dangerous. You know, people hear me say, well, the average person needs at least 4 liters a day, and they drink 4 liters a day. But that doesn't mean that's what you need. You might need less, you might need more. So unfortunately, you can't safely continue if you're not getting the water you need. You know, if you really feel like you can't handle more water, then maybe it's time to end your fast. You're going to have to decide what to do there.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. What about fasting when you have fatty acid deficiencies? Wow. Fatty acid deficiencies and fasting.
Okay, so first of all, most deficiencies, unless they're life-threatening, aren't an impediment to fasting. So we fast people all the time who have iron deficiencies, for instance, anemia, magnesium deficiencies, calcium deficiencies. None of these things prohibits anyone from fasting. Now, being deficient, you know, if you don't have the sodium and potassium in your bloodstream that you need to have, then you're putting yourself in serious danger. And so we have everyone test their sodium and potassium and send us the results from a laboratory before they'll start with us. Because if you get too low in sodium or potassium, you might wind up dead, and that's not probably what we're trying to accomplish. But fatty acid deficiencies, in many cases, you know, again, I mean, first of all, you know, the first question I would ask is, why are there fatty acid deficiencies? What does your diet look like? Now, if your diet, I mean, honestly, having just said that, I would say that almost regardless of what you're eating, you should have no trouble getting the fatty acids you need, assuming your body works properly. Obviously, if there's a deficiency, you know, there's only 2 reasons for a deficiency. The first one is the diet itself doesn't provide what you need. Yeah. Now, with fatty acids, almost every diet does. How's that possible? What if you eat no fat whatsoever? Well, you can't actually do that. And that's because the cell nucleus of every living cell is made of fat. And the cell structure of every living cell is made of protein. So if you think you're eating a zero protein diet, unless you're not eating any real food, you can't do that. Okay.
The protein myth, you've just busted that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to be deficient, to not consume enough protein if you're eating enough food.
Enough calories.
If you're eating enough calories. Now, there may be people who have problems getting the amino acids they need because their body doesn't work very well. The same thing is likely going on with fatty acid deficiencies. And so fasting is going to be the best way to resolve the underlying issues, that when you're done, you're able to get what you need. And because fatty acid deficiencies aren't likely to put you in any kind of danger, there's no problem fasting with them. By the time you're done, you should do much, much better. I eat relatively little concentrated fat, virtually never nuts and seeds. I do like avocados, but I'll eat them with a salad, which happens 2 or 3 times a week. Most of the rest of the time, I'm living on watermelons and papayas. They're my 2 primary things, go-tos. You know, I'll have bananas once a week. I'll have pineapples once a week. I'll have mangoes once a week, on average, and other fruits. We have more than 200 varieties of fruit planted on site here.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
You should. If you're not getting them, it's probably because your body's not functioning as well as it could be.
So would you say that fasting is like a reset, like hitting a reset button in some sense to assist in the whole elimination and efficient absorption processes? Or
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. It's a giant reset. Okay. And I mean, and for me, the significance of saying that, you want to be clear. It's not like it magically eliminates all the issues. It's a giant reset. So it's going to take you back. Your body's going to be able to get rid of the garbage. It's going to be able to heal damage. We see that the telomeres, which are the little tails on the DNA, which actually reflect how long we have to live, they get longer by fasting. The only other thing that I'm aware of that makes your telomeres longer is sex, but it has much less of an impact. I mean, sex is good for you, but fasting dramatically increases your telomeres. You literally grow younger when you fast. So it's like a giant reset. But the thing is, if after fasting you go back and make the same crummy choices you made before, you're going to recreate the same issues.
It's like you're undoing it. It's like you're undoing the good that you just like made all that progress, and then you're undoing it. Like you're setting yourself back.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah. I see that my video's frozen, but
it's spinning, but I can hear you.
Okay, good. Hopefully,
yeah. The whole topic of sex is so interesting because I listened to some of your videos, and I won't say in which language it was, but you do videos in English and Spanish.
That's right.
Obviously, as you know, I'm just saying it for others. And there in 2 of your videos, that topic came up, and I really love your answer, because some people get really hung up, on like, what the animals are doing in nature and what humans are doing. And I just think your answer was just so great, because, some people, they just have these, like, I don't know, like these ideas in their heads. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up to kind of connect to what you were saying.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So we have another question. I don't want to ignore it, but I want to just say that you've already answered it. So can hair loss be avoided if you eat like this, or is it genetic? So you've covered that. Yeah. We have a compliment for you. Loren is always on point. We have,
thank you so much.
We have, let's see, let me get down here to what's happening here. Oh, what about cacao in its natural form?
Well, cacao in its natural form. So, okay. First of all, some people may not realize this, but there's a cacao tree which produces a fruit called the cacao fruit. And the fruit is delicious. There's not so much flesh. There's a little bit of edible flesh around the seeds, but it's really good. I like it very much. Cacao, which is what chocolate comes from, that's actually the seed. And although theoretically it's possible to do it raw, generally speaking, chocolate is made from roasting the cacao seeds. And so the thing that you want to, I mean, again, listen, full disclosure, on the last break, I spent some time in Houston visiting my mother, who used to visit every year, but hasn't visited for the last couple of years for obvious reasons.
Right.
So I went to Houston to see her. And then I went to San Diego and hung out with some very dear friends there, one of whom took me to an amazing raw vegan restaurant called Peace Pies. I then, because it was heavy and made me feel a little sluggish and incredibly delicious, I took a friend there a couple days later. And I had some raw vegan chocolate there. Now, is it optimal? Absolutely not. That's the kind of compromise I'll make occasionally.
Right.
But what you want to be clear about is that plants produce fruit in order to get their seeds distributed. Every plant wants to propagate, wants to make as many copies as possible, and fruiting plants make fruit to distribute their seeds. So the last thing that the cacao tree wants you to do is to eat the seeds. And in order to prevent the seeds from being eaten, as is true with almost all fruit seeds, cacao seeds are toxic. Among other things, they contain caffeine, which is a toxic stimulant, theobromine, which is another toxic stimulant. These are things that make you feel energized, and some people love it for that reason, but you want to be clear that when you consume a stimulant, you temporarily feel a boost of energy. You wind up being more depleted in energy than where you started. Every stimulant has the same effect. Okay, that's right. It takes you up and then it takes you down lower than where you began. And this is why things like coffee are so highly addictive, because you wind up lower than before. Now you need more coffee to bring you back up.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Sorry for the noise.
Your house isn't on fire, is it?
No.
Okay,
Thankfully.
good. Yeah, glad to hear that. All right. So cacao, definitely not a health food. Something that I'll indulge in every once.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Where are you?
Yeah, so I'm in the Northeast. I'll tell you after. I'm in the Northeast. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Super busy location.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So so cacao, we've kind of put that one to bed. So let's go to our next question,
Okay.
which is so someone is asking, how can you help people that aren't open to the idea to stop eating cooked food? Should I not waste my time and move on to someone else that's more committed to his health?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great question. It opens up a whole area. Ultimately, I would say, our primary responsibility as humans is to learn to let go of all the BS beliefs we've been carrying around about ourselves, the disempowering beliefs, and to embody what is our truth, which I believe is unconditional love, and to love everyone as well as we're able to. Mm-hmm. And so your job isn't to save everyone. You can't save anyone if they don't want to be saved. Yeah. Okay, there are most people, unfortunately, are not open to changing their diet. They don't want to.
They're attached. It's an attachment as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so ultimately you move on, right? You don't, I mean, nobody wants anything shoved down their throat. And I learned this the hard way, right? And when I realized that cooking was harmful and I stopped eating cooked food, it didn't take long for me to feel amazingly well. And I wanted to share it with everybody I loved. And so I tried to, to shove it down people's throats. Most people were not that happy about having anything shoved down their throat. And so, right? And so what you do is you offer it to those people that you care about, or anyone, in fact, as a gift when it comes up. It's a gift. It's like you're offering them a gift of your knowledge. If they're not interested, that's okay. You offered. You can always say to them, listen, if you change your mind at some point, if you want to hear more, let me know. But you can't force it on people. If people don't want it, they don't want it. That's okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that just goes for anything, actually, not just the raw vegan diet. It goes for everything, exactly, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Exactly. It goes for everything. I mean, it's difficult and painful because there are few things more painful than watching people you love make choices that you know or believe to be harmful to them. But ultimately, it's their choice.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, sometimes their choice is to stick their head in the sand and not look.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? It's their body, it's their life. There's nothing you can do about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you for that question and that answer. So we have another question related to dry fasting.
Uh-huh.
And the question is, dry fasting seems to be getting very popular for long stints,
Right.
question mark. It's really a statement or a question. So what are your thoughts on that about dry fasting? I know you touched on it earlier, but just to honor this question.
Yeah, sure. Right. As I said before, in case you weren't here at the time, dry fasting, I mean, you know, it's funny. People will say to me, well, animals dry fast.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly. And let me clarify, because yes, animals do fast most of the time without water. Now, I was in Gdansk, Poland a few years ago doing a full day seminar, and I was talking about this subject, and a man raised his hand, and I called on him, and he said, Loren, he said, I'm a veterinarian. He said, animals in nature will often fast without drinking water. But guess what they do when they're thirsty? If they're fasting, they'll go find water. Okay? So animals don't do what people do. People decide in advance, I'm going to go 10 days without drinking water. There's a woman, she's a lovely person. I like her. But she does these videos while she's dry fasting where she literally can barely speak.
Oh.
And this is not a healthy thing at all. Okay. All you're doing is making yourself more dehydrated. We measure that here. We see that here. I had a friend who died because of the damage to his kidneys from dry fasting. Your kidneys are, as I said, are filtering your blood all the time and making urine. If there's not enough water present, they wind up getting scarred. It winds up being dangerous for them. And this wound up being his undoing. It's a really bad idea. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Right. The key is, what animals do is they say, well, okay, I'm not going to eat because my body's telling me not to eat. And then they don't drink if they don't need to, but they do if they need water.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So we have a question here on bacteria overgrowth. So the question is, when we look at bacteria overgrowths and harmful bacteria infections like Clostridium difficult, due to the long life of some of these bacteria, is it possible to kill them while fasting?
Yeah. The thing to understand is that these bacteria, let me share a very quick story with you. In our first Tanglewood location, I opened up in a big house, in a neighborhood of big houses outside of Washington, D.C. 25 years ago. And my neighbors were all just, residential houses. And twice a week, they'd put 4 or 5, sometimes 6 garbage cans at the end of their driveway. Right. I wondered what these people were consuming, how they could possibly have stuff to throw every week. Twice a month, I had half a can. That was it.
Oh, my goodness.
Literally. And so here's what I noticed. On all those days, the 6 or 7 times a month that I didn't have a trash can at the end of my driveway, the garbage truck didn't stop at my house.
Got it.
Now, here's what I learned from that. Garbage men don't create garbage. Garbage attracts garbage men. Okay? Bacteria are nature's garbage men. So the bacteria are there because of toxicity in the body. These so-called bad bacteria, they're not bad bacteria at all. Okay? They're actually helping you. But they're there because of garbage in the body. And so the key is to get the body clean. And once there's nothing for those bacteria to do anymore, they disappear. They go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Wow. So here's a very pertinent question again regarding fasting. And you probably experienced this challenge from some of your guests and clients. So here it is. What about transitioning to fasting? I'm so addicted to cooked vegan foods. I don't think I could fast right away.
That's never been an issue. First of all, it may be difficult when people work with me remotely, right? There are people who can't get here, especially these days. It's hard for some people to travel from countries,
Yeah.
right? There are people, maybe they're a single parent, or even I had a woman who, my all-time record holder is a woman who fasted with me, I think 13 times remotely. And it wasn't that she couldn't fast. It wasn't that she couldn't travel. It wasn't that she was a single parent. She was happily married, but she had 2 young boys, and she didn't want to be away from them for a month at a time. Now, we have other parents that, say, well, look, I need to take care of myself. This is what I'm going to do. But for whatever, for some people, it's just an economic issue. It's a lot less expensive to work with me remotely than it is to come here. You pay us much less. You don't have to pay for travel. And we offer a payment plan. So, it becomes much easier for people to do that. Those people at home, yeah, it could be a lot harder if you're on your own. Here, you don't have many options. I mean, you're here. We're not offering you food. We don't really have people having trouble. Now, they may feel a bit uncomfortable at first, and it's true that you're often going to feel uncomfortable. In fact, it's an interesting thing. People often say things like, well, fasting is painful, or fasting is uncomfortable, or fasting is hard. And none of those things are actually true. What's true is that detoxification can be painful or difficult or hard. It's the fact that you're detoxifying. But people, here, virtually everyone gets through it. Almost everyone completes the process they set out to do, almost every single time. And we wind up getting amazing results. But, it definitely is hard to do on your own, no question. And remember, it's really not a good idea to do this on your own anyway.
Yeah, good point. So we have a question here. The person is saying, last time I fasted on water at True North, I had heart palpitations. What does that mean?
Well, there's various possibilities, and it's not necessarily problematic. What we would do here is we would, as I'm sure they do there too, we check your vital signs to make sure for people to have heart palpitations sometimes. That can happen because of the toxins in your bloodstream. And so heart palpitations alone don't necessarily mean much. Is that we really understand very well that when the body is detoxifying, things will sometimes not be normal, including vital signs. So, but again, you have to understand what is and isn't okay. At places like True North, if any of your vital signs, pulse, temperature, blood sugar, if any of these things, pressure, are way out of normal range, your fast is over. Yes. And we have many, many hundreds, maybe thousands of clients who were able to complete a process with us because we didn't stop them. And these issues took care of themselves. I have a woman here now fasting with me for the 2nd time who her blood sugar was quite low the 2nd or 3rd day of her fast. And we've been monitoring it every day. Today, we had the best number we've seen so far.
Awesome.
We didn't need to break her fast. Her fast would have ended a long time ago. She's now 16 days into a 21-day fast. It would have been over on the 2nd or 3rd day had she been almost anywhere else, and she wouldn't wind up with the benefits. One of the benefits she's getting, she has, among other things, vision issues, and her vision is already much better than it was when she got here.
Awesome. So good news is your video is back. We have another compliment. Definitely always on point is what someone is saying.
Thank you again.
Oh, a comment here about peace pies. Peace pies is worth the suffering.
Yeah. It's really delicious. And you're probably not going to feel as good the next day, but I recover quickly, so I don't mind beating myself up every once in a while if I recover quickly enough.
Awesome. We have another compliment. Facts, Loren. We have, let's see. Let's see. Can fasting help with aching, swollen lymph nodes?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the lymphatic system, the second circulatory system, is the system that picks up a lot of the garbage from the cells. It's intended to unburden the circulatory system, the blood circulatory system a little bit. It's actually very, very closely related, and I think most people don't really understand how it works. Lymphatic fluid is actually blood plasma. it leaks out of the blood vessels on purpose. It's by design. So there's some blood plasma that leaks into the body and is then collected in these lymphatic tubes that run back through the lymph nodes, under the arms, in the groin, but mostly around the neck, all the way around. We have the ones in here and here that most people are familiar with, that, that tend to get swollen sometimes.
Yeah.
But we actually have many more of them in the back of the neck. There's lots of them. These get swollen because they're essentially filters that are clogged, they're overworked. And with fasting, we almost always see this disappear. So I have someone fasting with me now who came in with swollen lymph nodes, and they're no longer swollen. In fact, I had somebody who had Lyme disease last session, had Lyme disease from San Diego. I saw her when I was in San Diego as well. We hung out. And she had Lyme disease for 9 years, actually went to True North, was told she can only, because of her low weight, could only fast for 3 to 5 days. They let her fast for 5 days. She fasted, she completed that process and felt better, but didn't heal the Lyme disease, didn't heal the swollen lymph nodes, didn't regain mental clarity, didn't regain her digestive issues, didn't heal those. She came here, she only had 3 weeks because she had to go back to school. And she fasted for 15 days and healed all those issues. No more swollen lymph nodes, no Lyme disease, none of those things. So yeah, it's a really, now sometimes while people are fasting, the lymph nodes will actually become swollen, and sometimes really swollen. And again, this is where it's important to understand what's happening and what's okay and what's not okay. But in the end, it always resolves, and we have people much, much healthier as a result of that.
Awesome. Awesome. Another question here. What is the best way to handle neurological cases?
Okay, you broke up a little bit. So the best way to do what?
What is the best way to handle neurological cases?
Well, neurological cases are no different than any other case. If you're talking about an issue that has neurological implications or is a neurological issue, we see those regularly too. I have a guy here now who is fasting with what apparently is a neurological issue. He's had pain. He's a young man. I think he's 29. He's had pain in his left leg. Unbearable, excruciating pain every day for 7 years. Yeah, and apparently it's neurological. We had a gentleman here just over a year ago, about 15 months ago, from Germany, who had created a neurological problem as a result of the overconsumption of recreational drugs. And I don't know exactly what he was using, but he had created a serious problem, and the weight of a sheet on his body was painful to him. So this guy was in pain all the time at that point for several years. He fasted 30 days. By the time he was done, he was hiking. We're up in the mountains here, and he was hiking 3 or 4 miles every day. Where before just standing on his feet was incredibly painful. Like walking to the toilet was really painful for him. By the time he was done here, he was hiking no problem. So it's no different than anything else. I mean, it's anything in the organism is something that needs to heal, and fasting is the best way to heal.
Awesome. So here's the question. What are Loren's thoughts on celery juice?
Okay. Well, first of all, juices are by far substandard fare. Remember, we're never going to improve on nature. And so, when we take anything, we take nature's perfect foods, whichever type of juice it is, and we run it through a machine. We can't improve on perfection. What we get is less than it was before. And remember, one of the things that happens is oxidation quickly. In one study in a tomato pressing operation where they were making tomato paste or tomato sauce, and it was an industrial facility where they had these huge canisters. They'd fill them with tomatoes, and this giant piston would come down to crush the tomatoes. In this situation, the air is forced out of the cylinder. As the piston comes down, the air is forced out, right? It has to be forced out, otherwise there would be an explosion.
Yeah.
Compressed air explodes. That's how a diesel engine works. In a juicer or a blender, the air is being sucked in. Now, there are vacuum blenders that don't allow air in, but generally speaking, you're as you blend something up, even if there's any air in the machine, it's being sucked into the mixture. So you're dramatically oxidizing. What they found in the tomato pressing operation was in 3 minutes, 40% of the vitamin C was destroyed through oxidation.
Oh my gosh.
40% in 3 minutes. I used to see people, I don't see this so often anymore, but sometimes on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, someone's like, here's my juices for the week. They've produced just for, I mean, five minutes after you've made it, it's lost a lot of its benefit already. Okay. But in addition to losing nutrients through oxidation, it's overly concentrated. And so I've told the story many, many times. I'm looking to see if I have anything here, the right color. I just finished a lecture outside of Washington, D.C. several years ago. And a woman came up to ask me some questions. And I answered her questions. And I said to her, you drink a lot of carrot juice, don't you? And she said, yeah, how'd you know? I said, well, you're orange.
Oh, yeah. I've heard
her
of that.
skin was orange, right?
I've heard,
so we're intended to out-process excess carotenes, through the liver. But this happens when the liver's overwhelmed and can't do it. So, if you think about this, I mean, have you ever made a glass of carrot juice?
Personally, no, but I drank some.
Okay, I've made many of them in my earlier history. I did I spent years before I learned about fasting doing juices, doing juice. And so you take a large glass like this, and to make carrot juice, you're going to put a lot of carrots in there. You're never going to be able to eat that many carrots at one time. Not raw.
Yeah, you're right.
By the time you're a quarter of the way through, your jaw is going to say to you, listen, you're on your own. I'm done. Good luck. I'm not doing any more of it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. We're intended to eat whole foods. And if it's something like a carrot, your body says that's enough.
Yeah, I eat about four carrots at a time when I'm like preparing my breakfast, like chopping up my fruits for my smoothie. And I just want to keep busy and munch on something. And so, I'll chop up, like I'm obsessed with the tricolor carrots, like purple, orange, and yellow. So I chop those up and munch on them.
Got it. Okay. So,
awesome.
So anyway, we're starting with juices in general. Celery juice it's not the answer to all of our problems. As some people have been led to believe. It's not the one thing. It's not the cure-all. There are people who are probably low in sodium, and it might help them because celery's got some natural organic sodium. That's one way to get sodium, and we'll actually use it. If we break a fast here, and someone is clearly low in sodium, we might give them some celery juice. But generally speaking, I have a champion juicer, and I can't remember the last time I made juice with it. I'll drink juices a few times a year, but no more than that, because I'm really clear that whole foods are always best. Yeah.
So Loren, I tell you, we have so many questions to get through. I don't even know how we're going to do this.
Well, I'll make a suggestion to you. At some point, I'm going to have to head off.
Yes.
But we can do this again sometime if you like.
Yeah. So you tell me, how much time do you have left so I can figure out which route to take here?
It's 3:30 here. I've got to get to a farmer's market.
Okay.
So I probably don't have too much more time. I can take a few more minutes.
Okay. So I tell you what I'm going to do is I wonder if this will work, if I can do a screenshot. Let me just try. Worked, and then I'm just going to take a screenshot of the other question. Yeah, okay. So I got those questions. So I tell you what, let's use the remaining time, please, to well, actually I have two more to tell us please all right, so here I am. Tell us, please, about the fruit festival that's coming up. I believe it's in February of next year. What should everybody know about that, and where can they find out more info?
Sure. So this is our sixth. I think it's the sixth. It might be the fifth one. I've lost track. It's the fifth or sixth annual festival. They're not huge events. I think this year we're probably going to have 30 to 35 to 40 people here, something like that. We've got 42 beds on site. We also have a campground. We have space for campers, and we have a beautiful bathroom facility for campers. It's a week-long event. It runs from the 19th to 26th of February. The last several years in a row, we've had more than 50 different varieties of fruit, 100% organic. To be clear, that includes, for instance, like 4 types of mangoes.
Right.
Like that. But,
right.
you know, amazing fruit, all organic, delicious, all from Costa Rica. We also we have salads almost every night. Some dinners I'll do some more prepared raw food for people who aren't used to eating so simply, because some people actually, you know, feel like they need something a little heavier. So we'll do some of that as well. Tanglewood is a beautiful facility. Many people say it's the most beautiful place they've ever seen. We've got 37 acres of forest and gardens and orchards. As I said earlier, we have more than 200 varieties of fruit growing on site. We have comfortable guest rooms. We have a beautiful saltwater pool. We have a giant trampoline. We have kilometers of trails on site. We have mountain bikes for our guest use. We have a beautiful yoga studio. We have a bonfire circle. We'll have a couple of bonfires. We'll spend one day at Carrillo, and we send an advance. You know, as you know, Carrillo, it's a beautiful bay.
I love the semicircle. It's like a half crescent moon or something.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a bay, so it's got that moon shape.
Yeah.
And it's lined with palm trees,
yeah.
which provide shade. But to be sure, I send an advanced team there, some guys that work here, and they'll go down and we'll put a bunch of shade cloth up between the palm trees.
Okay.
So we've got because the tropical sun's pretty intense.
Oh gosh, yes.
So
February is going to be super hot and dry.
Well, it's not. I mean, it doesn't get that much warmer, but it's sunny all day every day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so we create this large shaded area. We show up with tons of fruit. We bring all the fruit. You know, we bring everything, and we bring everyone here on a bus, and it's a great time. We spend another day. Our other project, Las Cascadas, which is just down the road, a couple kilometers from here, has the first and second highest waterfalls in Central America. And we'll hike in there, and we'll spend the day there. We'll have lunch there. We'll swim in the pools and hang out. It's a beautiful place. It's been a hard hike. It's a challenging hike. It's 2.5, 3 kilometers down. Everyone can go down,
but it's the ascent.
Coming back up's a little more challenging.
So what do people do?
Well, I think there's 5 or 6 people still in there from the last couple of years. No, we get everyone. Everyone makes it out. You know, and to be honest, in the old days, I mean, we own that land now, but before we owned that land, we would pay the owner to bring people in, like everyone else. And the owner had some horses, so we would bring 4 or 5 horses, and people that felt like they couldn't hike up would ride up on a horse. Now, frankly, I hated using animals.
Yeah.
And these poor horses looked like they would have preferred to be dead by the time they got to the top, because it's a pretty tough hike. So one of the things we're doing right now, we are completely redoing the trails. The trails were very narrow in some places. There's a very steep drop off, sometimes hundreds of meters down. We've now put in probably 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers of handrails wherever there's a steep place. We now have a handrail in place. We've widened the trails. In some places they were, 1 foot wide. We've made them all 4 feet wide and level. We're putting stairs in. Actually, we started doing that a few days ago. So the places that are super steep, there'll be like a step, and then a little straight area, and then a step, and then a straight area. In the very steepest places, it'll actually be like a staircase.
But that's going to be easier, Loren, to actually do the return trip up.
No, it'll be much easier.
Yeah,
it will. And again, I mean, there's no rush. If we need to, last year, I think year before last, we had a woman in her 30s who wasn't in the best condition. She had a young child with her, and she had trouble. And so she had made it about 1/3 of the way up, at the most, maybe 1/4 of the way up. I was at the top when I heard there was a problem. So I ran all the way down, and I helped her come back up.
I was imagining like a human hand holding train going up or something.
Well, I mean, for for anyone in decent shape, it's not that hard. I mean, it might it's going to take some people longer than others.
Of course.
Everyone's going to be tired. Some people are going to be very thirsty at the end, but everyone gets up. It's not. We've never not had anyone make it up.
Awesome.
So,
So go
I'm sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. You.
Well, I was going to say we have yoga classes every day. We'll have an ecstatic dance. We usually have live music. We're still looking for the right. We haven't found the performers yet for this year, but we usually have live music. It's a great event. There's a lot of cool things. I'll give a lecture every day,
Wow.
except the days that we travel. I don't think I do one those days. But it's a lot of fun, and all of the information can be found at tanglewoodfruitfestival.com.
Okay. Now, tell us a bit, please, about your YouTube channel. I know you do, your live broadcasts on YouTube and Instagram in English and in Spanish. What do you want everybody to know about your YouTube channel, please?
Well, I mean, I think if you're not familiar with it, there's a ton of information there. Listen, I offer paid consultations. As I said, I started as a health coach 30 years ago, and I still do. I have many fixed appointments. I mean, right now I've got 3 group fasting calls every day. And so that takes time. But I usually have a couple of hours a day where I'm doing one-off consultations with people, and I'm happy to do that. But there's a ton of free information. If you don't want to pay or don't have the money, there's a ton of free information. It's a lot harder to go find it all yourself. But we have, I think, more than 950 videos on the channel. I cover everything about health. I talk about fasting, I talk about optimal diet, but I talk about every aspect of becoming as healthy as possible. My commitment really is to helping people maximize their potential. That's what I'm all about. And fasting, optimal, these are just tools to help us get there. But I cover all of it. For people who would enjoy more of the live piece, it's interactive. Every Friday morning, 9 o'clock Costa Rica time, I'm live on both YouTube and Instagram. And that's in English. Every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, I'm live in both English. I'm live on both Instagram and YouTube in Spanish on Saturday mornings. Now, while I'm thinking about it, I'll be live tomorrow. Next Friday, unfortunately, I have an appointment, and this was the only time it's a government thing I have to go do, only time they would give me. So I won't be live next Friday, the 24th of December, but I'll be live tomorrow and then every week after that. Sometimes when I'm traveling, depending on where I am in the world, it's difficult to do.
Yeah, but I just want to applaud you, for sharing all the information. And yeah, it is free, quote unquote, but I just want to applaud you for sharing your knowledge with people all around the world. And then, we can just tap into it whenever we wish. So thank you for that. And
You're very welcome.
Tell us, please, about your yoga retreat. What's happening with that?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if this one that's currently scheduled is going to happen. But we have these yoga retreats occasionally. Again, we have a beautiful yoga studio. It's 10 meters by 10 meters.
Wow.
We have screen panels on 2.5 sides, so it's open to the breeze, to the beautiful views of nature around us. We're up in the mountains. We have beautiful views, and it's a teak floor, and it's a beautiful, serene space, and we have high quality mats and gear for people. And when we do a yoga retreat, we have a teacher that comes in and teaches every day, sometimes twice a day, but always at least once a day. Mm-hmm. And then there's usually lectures. And it's similar to the food festival in that we offer amazing high quality food. And we still usually go to the beach and do the waterfall trip if that's what they're interested in. It's up to the teacher. If it's our event, it's going to be similar. If it's their event, it can be whatever they want it to be. So in fact, if you're listening here and let's say you're a yoga teacher, or you are any kind of a teacher,
or a retreat organizer.
Yeah, exactly. If you'd like to bring an event here, we're open for fasting, again, 10 weeks at a time. And then we take breaks because it's intense for me when we're open. And so we take breaks. In the old days, until a couple of years ago, every time we closed, I traveled to do a lecture tour. Lecture tours for me, that's not like working. I love getting up and explaining this stuff. So, I can do it every single night for a month and feel great. Now there's not so much traveling and speaking,
No.
but we have this downtime. We have, currently we have probably 18 to 20 weeks a year that we're not open for fasting.
Okay.
And you are welcome to bring your event here. You can contact us to talk about how that works and what that looks like. But all you have to do is you come and teach. We'll do, we have a full staff. Again, we're like a hotel, so we have the staff that cleans the rooms every day and prepares all the food. We can provide a yoga teacher if you're doing something other than yoga and would like to have yoga classes. We can provide a yoga teacher in most cases. Talk to us if you're interested. It's a beautiful space, so I think you'd be very happy.
Yeah, and I had some of the best fruit in my life in Costa Rica, so.
That's amazing.
And really high vibrations. Pura vida, everybody, yeah. So tell us, please, about your intentional community. I think you kind of, mentioned it, but tell us, what's that all about? What do we need to know about that?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Las Cascadas, which is the overall project. And the project has 5 or 6 separate aspects to it, probably more than that, really. But the intentional community, actually communities, because there'll be 2 of them, are just one or 2 parts of it. It started out actually with the intentional community. I thought, I want to create a raw vegan community. And one of the things that happened was I'd be talking to groups of clients and they'd say, well, you've got a business. How am I supposed to make a living in the middle of nowhere? And I thought about that and thought, okay, well, what can we do? And then, as you're probably aware, we're in the midst of the sixth mass extinction on the planet, losing more species every day than ever before. At the current rate that they're disappearing, there are many scientists who believe that in 40 or 50 years, there won't be any left. And so I thought, this is a serious problem. We need to do something about this. And I heard of a guy 2 years ago, in December, right now, 2 years ago, I was in Stockholm, Sweden, which isn't where I'd recommend being in December, but that's where I was. And I was on a lecture tour, and about 6 months earlier, I heard about a Swedish billionaire who had bought something like 40,000 hectares, which is like 100,000 acres of Amazon jungle, supposedly to protect it. As it turns out, he was later fined for illegal logging on the land.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So actually destroying it.
Right, exactly. But theoretically, he bought it to protect it. As I was giving these events in Sweden, I asked every audience, how many of you know about this, heard about this guy? No one had. I don't think we can buy enough land to protect enough land. That's not possible. Instead, what we have to do is educate people, even if it's one at a time. And so what I thought, my idea was create a place where people have an amazing set of experiences in and with nature. And at the same time, teach them how to live more gently on the planet in terms of food, in terms of everything. And so the project, the aspects are the intentional communities, which I'll come back to in a moment. The nature preserve I talked about. Again, we have the first and second highest waterfalls in Central America, which mean we can attract a lot of visitors. Yeah. We also have about 18 more waterfalls. It's incredible. We have at least 20 waterfalls, and there may be others we haven't even seen yet. Because I learned
some of them are like almost hidden in a sense.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the biggest piece of land that has the 2 highest ones, which I started negotiating for more than 7 years ago. 3 months ago, I was there to negotiate with the guy I bought that land from to buy another little piece from. And I was talking to his adult son, and his son said to me, "Did you know there's a 100-meter waterfall right down here?" Yeah. I was like, no, I never knew that.
It's amazing.
There may be others. So the idea is, to create this amazing place as large as possible, to protect as much land as we can, and for 2 reasons. One, again, it's not that we can protect enough land that way, but the larger it is, frankly, the more publicity we can get. And the more people know about the project, the more people we can educate about why we're doing this and what's going on. But, with all these waterfalls and so much more, we can create an amazing experience in nature, in the nature preserve. We're also we have 3 contiguous farms totaling about 135 acres. It won't all be used for this purpose, but the goal is to have 110, 100 plus acres planted in fruit trees. We've got space there for more than 40,000 fruiting trees. And the goal is to create the largest collection of tropical fruit species on the planet.
Oh,
that will be a tourist destination in its own right. I mean, imagine if you could go to a place and sample 50 different types of mangoes. I'm sure a lot of people.
I don't think I would want to leave, number one. But number two, what I love about it, what I'm getting from what you're saying too, is like to create not only the awareness but the connection and the respect.
Exactly.
The respect and the desire to be responsible for, planet Earth.
Very, very well said. Would you like to be our new corporate spokesperson?
Sure, any day.
Very, very well said. That's exactly what needs to happen. We need people to have this incredible connection, this incredible experience where they get it in a way they haven't before, viscerally understand why they need to, because the fact is, we are part of this living organism called Gaia, right? We're part of it. We're not separate from it. Yeah. As we destroy the planet, we're destroying ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to take care of her.
I think it's just, there's such a disconnect, I mean, well, we're disconnected from ourselves. So just imagine being disconnected from others, from, exactly. Humans, non-human animals in the planet. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, we're so far out. But I love what you're doing because you're trying to bring us back. I love that.
That's right. Yeah, and so another aspect is we're going to create a world-class botanical garden. We've got 17 plus acres way up high. A part of the land we have is on the second highest peak in the area. We don't have the very top, but we have the bottom 2/3 of that mountainside. And this land across the valley is almost as high as that peak, so it's pretty high. We're on a giant peninsula here. Yeah. From that land, you can see the ocean through the mountain peaks on 3 sides. And I'm talking 50, 75 miles away. It's amazing. So there'll be this world.
And the sunsets over there are amazing.
Yeah. World-class botanical garden. We'll have, now, the other reason that people come to Costa Rica, if it's not for nature, it's for adventure. Yeah. And so we have cliffs in the valley. We're going to have rock climbing. We'll start with a climbing wall, a bouldering wall, and then there'll be rock climbing with guides. We'll have a mountain bike park. We'll have BMX biking. We'll have a very cool skate park. I'd like to have a parkour course. We'll have a high adventure course. We'll have all kinds of things where people are having fun, doing adventure sports in nature, again, having this amazing connection. And what's different about doing that anywhere else is we're going to be educating them while they're doing it. This is why we do it this way. This is why we use this. This is why we use that. This is why we don't have any of that here, whatever it might be. Everything on site will be as environmentally friendly as possible. So all the buildings will be environmentally friendly. All the food. I mean, it's hard to say 100% because we can't always get 100% in Costa Rica. Yeah. But the goal is, as much as possible, to be as self-contained as we can be, so we grow all of our own food. Yeah. Everything we do is organic. Okay, if you want, so, and then we're going to have a little commercial village. So you park, you get out, you go through gates, and you go buy your tickets. If you want to go to the nature preserve, if you want to go to the botanical garden, you buy your tickets. Because we're talking about a large area, we'll have, there'll be a shuttle that goes up to the botanical garden. It's up pretty high. You can hike up there, but it's a pretty powerful walk. It's about 1,000, at least 1,000 feet above the top of the waterfalls, or 500. It's pretty high. It's pretty steep. So we'll have a shuttle that goes up there. You'll have to have a ticket. You may have to wait a little while for the next shuttle. In the meantime, there'll be boutiques and a bookstore and a juice bar, and there'll be raw vegan eateries, all different kinds of things. Not all optimal, but the idea is to appeal to tourists. There'll be a spa.
I love that.
Eventually there'll be an athletic center. There'll be an amphitheater, so we can do performances. The idea is to foster everything that's good for the human soul and spirit, as well as the body. And really to get, have people come and they spend a week or a month with us. I mean, we see this here at Tanglewood now, where half of the guests say, most of them go home, they've got things, but most of them say, I don't want to leave. We want to have that experience where people come, they're like, this is amazing, and we're leaving something with them that never fades. That's always there. They'll understand in a new way how we can live on a planet in a way that's not harmful to the planet. And so, and then we have the intentional communities where people can buy a lot, build their own house. And again, intentional community means it's a tribe, right? We don't take anyone. We have to vet you. Once the communities are actually built, they're not built yet. If you want to join, you'll go through a process, the last stage of which is coming and spending 3 months living on site, renting a place and living on site. And the community will vote yes or no. That's how communities work, intentional communities.
I love
But the
that.
idea is, it's people that want to live together and I mean, it's not, you still have your privacy of your own place. You don't have to do anything. I mean, we have community guidelines, so you can't crank your music at, in the raw vegan community, there'll be no cooking allowed. In the vegan community, you can cook. They'll be separate because the raw vegans don't want to smell the cooked food.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, you can live your own life. You can do, if you, let's say you're self-employed or don't have to work, great, you do whatever you want to. And in the commercial village, all of those businesses, the idea is this is how we create an income for community members.
Yes.
So you want to run the juice bar, great. You do a proposal. We'll have the space available for you. We'll build the space. You lease the space. It's your business. It's your business. There'll be some guidelines. We want people to be open certain hours. It's because the whole thing has to work together as one. Yeah. As one facility. But it's your business.
It's like an ecosystem. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I
think. So we have some
compliments.
compliments. That sounds really awesome. Another one. I can't wait to visit. You're so inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I consider myself incredibly fortunate. I'm very, very grateful that I realized at a young age what turned me on and where my passion was. And I've spent now most of my life working in that. And it's amazing. I wake up every day. I don't have to ever work. I do what I do for free if I didn't need the money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun. Yeah. So I know you need to run, but please tell us about your Academy for Vibrant Living. What is that all about? And why would anyone be interested in being a part of your Academy for Vibrant Living? Please?
Sure. Okay. So I've spent now 45 plus years, almost 46 years, studying health and nutrition. Yeah. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of clients. I haven't been sick a day now in almost 35 years. I have 6 brothers and sisters. They all wear glasses, at least to read. I don't own a pair of glasses. I still don't need them. My body literally works better now, approaching 61, than it did at 18 in some ways. And so
I saw you doing pull-ups on a chair. And I'm like, wait a second. How is he able to do pull-ups on a chair?
Pull-ups or dips, maybe?
Dips.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, it's possible for anyone. The thing is, when our bodies are clean and efficient, it doesn't actually take much to stay strong. You don't have to put a lot of time or work into it. You don't need a lot of calories. I mean, there's a lot of advantages. But anyway, the Academy for Vibrant Living, this is something I'd wanted to do for a long time because although there's tons of free information on the YouTube channel, and I'm going to keep producing more of that, every week we put up another couple of videos, plus a live broadcast. So there's like 3 or 4 new videos on my channel every week now. Still, some people want an organized, step-by-step process. They want to be led from A to Z. And so back in 2020, the borders were closed here for 6 months. No one could get into the country. We had 4 clients here. They happened to be people who were already in the country. It was a difficult time for us. And I thought, you know what? I've been wanting to do this for years. Let's go ahead and build this program. And so we spent 6, maybe 9 months creating the curriculum and recording, I want to say over 100 videos for the first course, which is called Vibrant Health. And it is an A to Z course about health, everything you need to know to take your health to an amazing level. Now, fasting is I'd still recommend having guidance, but we talk about fasting and teach you what you need to know about that. Everything is in there. The second course is called health coach. And if you want to be a certified health coach, you have to take the Vibrant Health course first. You can become a health coach in 2 or 3 months. There are other places that will certify you in 2 or 3 months, but you can't possibly learn enough to really know about creating an amazing level of health in that little time. We want our health coaches to be people who really know everything. So you take the first, and you can buy the two together and spend less that way. But you invest in the Vibrant Health course, then you take the health coaching course. First, you've learned how to take care of your own health. The health coach course teaches you how to work with other people effectively, how to run a successful business, etc. It's an investment. These things aren't cheap, but they're amazing courses. When you graduate from the health coach course, you're a certified health coach by an outside organization. And so these are real courses recognized by the outside world. They're amazing. We've had incredible feedback. We released the first course just about 11 months ago in January of this year. And the health coach course didn't get released, I think, until March. And so they're relatively new, but we had a lot of people join, and we've had really, really great feedback so far. So if you want to take your health to the highest level possible and or help other people do the same thing, I'd recommend you take a look at it. And that's academyforvibrantliving.com. You can take a look there. By the way, with Las Cascadas, there's a website as well, and it's lascascadas.org. I don't know if I mentioned this. The communities will be owned by the community members, right? You own your own lot, and as a community member, you own a share of all the common land that the community is on. All the rest of the land will be owned by a nonprofit foundation called Clean Source, which was incorporated earlier this year, like 10, 12 months ago, in Boston, Massachusetts. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and it will own all of the land. And so the idea is to protect the land in perpetuity. The for-profit businesses will lease land from the nonprofit. And so that website is Las Cascadas, which means the Cascades, the Falls, .org, because it's a nonprofit.
Awesome.
All right.
So, Loren, I know that you mentioned some of the future projects with Las Cascadas and others. Is there anything else in terms of the future that you want to share at this point?
Well, I'll share a couple of things. I'm looking for a couple of key members of our team. They'll have to fast here first. We'll want them to go through our process. And we take volunteers. They also have to spend at least 4 weeks with us as a client. But we're looking to eventually bring in someone who can manage the center, because I do that, as well as someone who can supervise fasts. And we'll teach someone to do that, but most likely it's going to be an MD. And again, notwithstanding what I said about MDs before, there are some who are turned on and have an open mind. Some of the clients we fasted, for instance. Obviously, having an MD here would make it easier for some people to be able to go through the process. They'd be able to relax if there was an MD watching them. And so we're looking for those key players. Once we have that, I'll be able to spend less time personally, overseeing every aspect of Tanglewood. And my goal then is twofold. One, we will create additional fasting centers around the world that will be set up on the exact same model. And two, I'll be overseeing the entire Las Cascadas project, because that's a big deal. That's a large project.
Oh yeah.
That project could eventually encompass 5,000.
It's like, honestly, it sounds like, I hate to say this, but it sounds like a whole, like, I don't want to call the name, but we all know the famous like amusement park that has like so many different parts to it, like moving parts to it. We all know which ones they are. But that's what it sounds like. It's like a town. It's like you're creating your own town.
Yeah, and much more. I mean, it really is a whole ecosystem. And what we're trying to do, and everything we're doing here is, the local government's thrilled, because we're talking about. So Tanglewood is currently the largest employer in this district, and we've got 15 to 20 employees depending on the time. This project will create hundreds of jobs. It will create lots of tax revenue to an area that doesn't have a lot of employment. It'll be real, and
Yeah.
the government wants this land where we're located. They want that to be part of a biological corridor. Of course, our goal is to protect 95% of the land. We're going to have to develop some of it because we need investors, and investors want to be paid back. So, you know, and again, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
you know, for the concept to work, we have to make it interesting for tourists to come and visit. So there'll be things going on for them. But again,
Totally.
everything as environmentally sound as possible. So, yeah, it's a big project, and it's gonna require a lot of oversight for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Loren, what is the best way, or what are the best ways for people to contact you for information, collaboration, consultations, questions, and comments?
Right. Well, the worst way to contact me, let me start there, is by commenting on one of my YouTube videos. We have so many of them. It's become almost impossible for me to keep up with the job of responding to all the comments. I've tried to. For years, I did my best, but now it's pretty difficult to do. So I'll still try to get back to you. But if you write there and say, hey, I want to come, you know, can you call me? I might not see that for 2 years. I mean, I wouldn't use that method. The best way would be to write to us. The best way would be to write to us at info@tanglewoodwellnesscenter.com. And that's far better than writing to me personally. I will see that email, but so will at least a couple other people on my staff. And so someone will make sure that you get responded to that way. Okay? That's probably the best way. You know, if you comment on Instagram right now, it's, you know, we're not so crazy busy here on Instagram where I don't have time. I do get back to everyone there. I do respond to all the comments. I mean, I've probably missed some, but I do my best to respond to those. Again, email's probably still better. What else? Those are probably going to be the best ways. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Loren, before I let you go, I want to thank you so much for taking all of this time to share all of your, you know, expertise and everything that you're doing with us. I want to thank everybody who joined either live or on the replay. And I just want to ask you, Loren, if you would be so kind as to just wrap this all up and put a bow on it for us, please, with your final thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. First of all, let me say it's been a real pleasure and a privilege to be here with you. I love having the chance to share what I can. It's great to have a new audience. You know, normally I get to feed my habit several times a year when I travel and speak. I've spoken all over the world in live lectures and seminars. I've done keynote lectures, speeches, etc. These days, there's not so much of that. So this is great. You know, the one thing, like the last, I think, idea I'd like to leave people with is, regardless of where you currently are at with your health and vitality, you want to be clear that health and vitality, amazing health and vitality, is your natural birthright. Now, it's entirely possible, you know, if you're 75 and you've had 2 liters of vodka every day, you might not get to the same level of health as someone who hasn't had all that experience already. But no matter where you are, you can take your health to a much higher level. If you're listening to me, if you're still alive, your body can still cleanse and heal, and you can take it to a new level. There's a lot you can do by simply changing your diet to an optimal diet. There's no question about it. Do that. Get enough sleep, get enough exercise, you know, meet all of your body's other needs. Finally, if you want to take it to the highest level possible, you've got to clean the garbage out. Okay? It's amazing what happens for people. There's a reason why we see these miraculous things happening over and over again with people here, because getting the garbage out, giving the body the chance to really heal, where that's all it has to focus on, it's incredible what happens. So, you know, never forget that you have the ability to create your reality, that you can create anything you choose to if you're willing to commit to that and do what you need to do.
That was so beautiful, and it's so empowering. So thank you so very much, Loren, for, you know, this conversation.
Sure.
And so, Loren, I am going to save this to IGTV, my feed and stories, and then I'll message you after. Don't worry about responding. I know you got tons to do, but I will message you as soon as I just post everything up there.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.